Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We're your TV necromancers, Laura, Prince and Noah Houlihan. We have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which ones should just stay doomed. This is a podcast in which we analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season or only one episode. And we used to do it in one episode, but now we kind of... This took a while. With me, as always, is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Tross!
I do a pretty good Pinky.
You do.
We are back with part 2 of Pinky, Elmyra, and the brain. I deeply resent this.
So, let it be known, a lot of people who listened to part 1 were like, why is this going to be 2 parts? It was like, sorry. Turns out we have a lot to say about this.
I just have a lot of feelings.
Yeah, we didn't expect this to be 2 parts either. But,
no.
You know, we at Stay Doomed want to do a thorough job and get all of our feelings out there. So we're going to make sure that happens. And we start, of course, by pouring one out.
What you got there, Noah?
All right. So this is what I decided to do this week. I have a little shot glass here, and I put in Liquor 43, which is going to represent the brain.
Okay.
Because it's a more complicated liqueur. There's a lot of good properties to it. It's a little classy. And then on top, I put some cream. It doesn't have any alcohol content, so there's less substance in it. And it's white and sweet, so that's going to represent Pinky.
Okay.
And together, Pinky and the brain make my absolute favorite shot in the world, a little beer.
All right.
And then next to it, I have a white IPA in a can. That's going to stand for Elmyra. And we are not going to mix it with Pinky and the Brain. It's going to remain over here for later while I enjoy this thing I really like, Pinky and the Brain, without her.
Okay, so, I have a glass of white wine, because Pinky and the Brain are white mice and Elmyra whines a lot. They can't all be winners, folks.
We didn't expect there to be a part 2.
Yeah, and it's also a holiday week, and we did not want to go to any unnecessary stores because of the thing we can't talk about because this goes on YouTube.
Yes. I don't know if that's still a problem, saying the C word.
The Backstreet Boys reunion tour?
The Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
To steal something from the Game Grumps?
But yeah, I guess we'll
that elaborate extended metaphor is still one of my favorite things.
Absolutely. So let's start this week by things we learned since last episode.
Yes.
So first off, it turns out it was hard to get clips. So you may notice in part 1 there's a lack of clips. The only thing that was available for like easy download was the theme song and episode 1, which was played in reverse. So I had to unreverse it every time I used a clip. It was very strange. So that is why the format kind of breaks down later in that episode. And also, last time I said I was going to do a little experiment where I said that the end credits title, or the end credit card that plays over Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain, does not display that it is for Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain. And to prove this, I tweeted it and put it on Facebook and said, hey, based off of this picture, what cartoon is this? And almost everyone just said Pinky and the Brain because there's
You could see the little mice on the blueprints.
Yeah, but there's also a little doodle of Elmyra that no one really picks up on. Nobody said Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain. A few people said a version of the title incorrectly, like Elmyra, Pinky and the Brain, or something like that.
Yeah.
But no one nailed it, just to show how not beloved this show is.
Yeah, so the other thing that we had that we wanted to talk about was the timetable. Because we did talk about the time slot this aired in, and we're trying to figure out, based on context clues, what time slot this aired in.
Right.
So I did find some old, like, archived Saturday morning lineups.
Okay.
And this actually had a really good time slot.
Really?
Yeah, it aired at 10:30, which is like a pretty prime space.
10:30 Saturday mornings?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great spot.
Its lead-in was something called Invasion America, which is something I have no idea what it is.
No, I have no idea what that is.
And then it kicked off Pinky, Elmyra and the Brain, Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, and Hysteria. Which Hysteria is a show I really like, but it did run 2 seasons.
Yes.
I looked. And then they used to switch around a lot, because then its lead-in was Brats of the Lost Nebula, which I do remember.
Okay.
And then they pulled it for a while, and were showing just regular Pinky and the Brain. And then its lead-in was Men in Black, the series. And when its lead-in's Men in Black, the series, you can see how they're starting to, like, deteriorate. You can actually see that this is the season Kids WB starts to die.
Yeah.
Because then, like, the first hour is the new Batman Superman adventures. And then, like, there's a couple weeks they just run something called the Animaniacs Super Show.
So it's just, like, a bunch of clips of stuff?
And then by early 1999, it's Batman Superman Adventures, a couple one-off shows, and then 2 hours of the big cartoony show. Which is the show that Pinky, Elmyra and the Brain started getting edited into.
Right.
Along with pieces of Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, pieces of Animaniacs. All of these shows started to get just kind of put in this big cartoony, like, old Looney Tunes, whatever we could find, just throw it in.
Gotcha.
And then Pokemon starts later that winter.
And that's what takes over everything.
And then it starts to slowly become more and more Pokemon.
Gotcha. Interesting. I will say I was really big into Men in Black, the series, so I'm still surprised I didn't catch much of this live. Also, just a fun fact that I stumbled across. Elmyra's last name is Duff.
Yeah.
It's Fudd backwards.
Yes.
Just a fun fact I found.
So, we're going to get back into the second half of the series.
Yeah, so this is the parts that we believe was aired during the Warner Rooney Big Cartoony Show.
Christmas episode!
Yes, we start with a Christmas episode.
I love Christmas episodes. This one's called You'll Be Sorry.
Yes.
Which I like. And it's, it's It's a Wonderful Life variant.
Yes.
Because you always say that Christmas episodes only have, 4 different plots.
Yes, yeah.
The Gift of the Magi, Christmas is in Danger,
Christmas Carol,
and It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes. Or It Snowed and We're Gonna Tell Stories.
Yeah. Which, the best episode of We're Gonna Just Tell Stories is a Halloween episode of Community.
I mean, I think the holiday, we're stuck and can't do the holiday, so let's just tell stories and be about talking and family. That's just a trope for holiday specials, not just Christmas.
Yeah, so they're usually one of those subplots, and this goes with the It's a Wonderful Life subplot. But instead of Brain wishing he'd never been born, Brain wishes Pinky had never been born.
Yes.
So Pinky has then a dream that shows him that he gets everything he wants, and he gets the Acme Labs back. But now he's stuck there with Elmyra and not Pinky.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's this episode. It's not a great dream sequence.
Yes, nor is it very Christmassy.
No, the ending is sweet.
Yes, but this is the first time I've ever heard Brain say something along these lines. He says, taking over the world is meaningless if I did it without your friendship.
Yeah.
And this is when I start to really have this theory, I think they're trying to tell a love story between Pinky and the Brain right now. Because I saw it in the beginning where it's I think Brain really starting to care and depend on Pinky more.
Yeah.
And I was are they really telling a love story here between Pinky and the Brain and their dependence and caring for each other in this world domination thing? That can't possibly be it. Hey, let's keep going.
So the next part of this episode is the domestic comedy.
Yeah, they end up acting like a married couple. They end up being in Elmyra's dollhouse.
Yes.
And they just start acting very domesticated.
They start just having the suburban dream.
Yes.
And they kind of become a little bit more consumerist. Brain starts realizing he likes vegging out in front of the TV.
Yes, he likes his chair.
He has this one chair that he really likes. And this very interesting, like, dom-com.
Yeah, and then we have, like, we're having people over storyline. Like,
yes.
We're having company. Don't embarrass me in front of the people of the neighborhood. This is a pretty good episode because there's not a lot of Elmyra in it.
Yeah, like, Elmyra's world facilitates, like, living in a young girl's room facilitates the story.
Yes.
But it's not dependent on Elmyra.
Right.
Like, I still think this show could have been executed really well with Elmyra being able to be a different girl. Like, if they just had a young woman of any kind and not specifically Elmyra.
Right. Like, it could have been anyone.
Yeah, because this idea is funny.
Yeah.
Having it be they live with a little girl kind of works in this episode. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work entirely.
No. And, like, this is really where I start to see, like, Pinky and the Brain as a love story, where they care about each other, and this global domination thing is just kind of the backset to their relationship.
Yes.
And that's kind of nice to see. And yeah, maybe I am overthinking this cartoon about mice that try to take over the world. But that's what we do on this show, judgy listener.
Did we get a lot of complaints or something, bro?
No. but that listener who was thinking that knows who they are.
Oh my god.
Sorry I yelled at you.
Episode 8 is pretty good.
Yeah, they start kind of figuring it out halfway through.
Yeah, the first half is called Wag the Mouse, and there was a contemporary film called Wag the Dog.
Yes.
It was like a political comedy, and it's Pinky and the Brain are trying to use Elmyra's influence to get her to be class president so they can take over her school and then the world. And the other two people running are Andrew Loam, who, like, doesn't do a lot in the show. He's just kind of there. He's the other named classmate who's not Rudy. Or Vanity.
Yes.
Elmyra's quote-quote best friend who's kind of like a bully and a user.
Yes. She's a mean girl.
Yeah. She doesn't do anything, like, mean enough to Elmyra to, like, warrant being she's...
Oh, I completely disagree.
Not at this point. She does later.
I mean, this is where our first introduction to her is stand next to me so I will look prettier by comparison.
Right. But she doesn't, like, Elmyra is depicted as being too stupid to understand that. And because they don't want the same thing, Elmyra doesn't care.
Right.
Like, if Vanity suddenly turned her attentions to Rudy, it'd be on.
Right.
But, like, Elmyra is happy to let Vanity get Andrew Loam's attention.
Yeah, but, like, remember in Mean Girls where, what's her name? Regina George. Regina George just goes, I love your bracelet. And the girl's like, thank you. And then walks away and she goes, that's the fuggliest bracelet I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It's her making sure people stay ugly so she stays pretty. And that's all I get from Vanity. Yeah. It's kind of like, she's at the top of the pyramid. And while what she's doing may not seem directly evil, it all serves her purpose.
Yes. But what I'm saying is she doesn't do anything directly cruel to Elmyra at this point. Mm-hmm. She is just... In a way, there's, like, an almost symbiotic relationship at this point of, like, she allows Elmyra to be seen with her.
Yeah, because it helps her status. Which
helps her status, but also, in a way, helps Elmyra's status because Elmyra is pretty low on the social totem pole.
Right.
So, this idea that, like, it's not a good situation, but it's this weirdly, like, symbiotic friendship.
Right.
So, Pinky and the Brain bully Andrew Loam out of the race by putting up a poster saying he dropped out.
Yeah.
And he, like, snaps.
He's like, I didn't drop out.
I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
And then Rudy says he'll beat up anyone who votes for Vanity.
Yeah, he just threatens people.
Because Rudy and Vanity don't like each other.
Right.
Because Rudy is lower class, like, Rudy is, you know, quote, quote, lower class. Rudy is, like, rough around the edges. He at one point is eating like a can of cold stew as a snack.
Yeah, like that's his favorite thing. It's like his Rorschach.
Yeah, like he's weird.
Good like this.
No, like he eats like a frozen stew popsicle.
Yeah.
Because that's what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Rorschach is just too weird to heat food up. Like, he went out of his way to freeze this stew and make a popsicle out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, so it's this, like, kind of almost this political, like, Pinky and the Brain are trying to brute force Elmyra into winning.
Right.
By manipulating Rudy into threatening people and voting for Vanity.
Mm-hmm.
Because they say, like, if Vanity wins, she is going to make rules against everything Rudy likes.
Right.
And Vanity doesn't deny it, because Vanity doesn't like Rudy. And at the end, Andrew Loam still wins.
Yeah. Because he's the popular kid.
Yeah, because he's, like, an affable jock. Mm-hmm. Like, Andrew Loam doesn't do a lot in the show. Like,
yeah.
He's not, like,
handsome.
Yeah, he's not, like, a mean, popular guy. He is just literally there.
Yeah.
The second one is probably one of my 2 favorite episodes. This is the Disneyland parody.
This is so well done.
Yes, it's really, really good. The whole thing is that Brain is trying to get a subliminal messaging tape in their equivalent of It's a Small World.
Yes, he changes one of the lines to something like, you will submit to Brain. And the idea is hundreds of thousands of people go through that a month. And they're all going to hear it, and eventually it'll just spread worldwide, because so many people are going through it constantly.
Yes.
So we spend the day at what is not Disney World, but clearly Disney World.
Yeah, like everything is a pastiche of different things in Disney.
Yeah, and this feels so Pinky in the Brain, because it is crammed full of jokes.
Yes.
Like, every set piece is a joke. Every line is a joke. Every background moment is a joke. Like, everything is joke.
Yeah, they pick a really ripe, topic for parody. It reminds me a lot of the Krusty Land episode of Simpsons.
Yeah.
Where it just, like, it's a little less edgy because it's a children's show as opposed to a family show. But they hit a lot of these, like, Elmyra takes over a plushie stand.
Yes. And there's the whole bit of, like, they're waiting in line for something.
Yes.
Like, you hit all the, like, tropes of an amusement park day.
And it's actually, like, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the better episodes. It's hard because, like, you can't really explain the jokes in these shows, so we're just kind of brushing over.
Yeah, it's a lot of just, like, oh, they're referencing... We're 2 big Disney nerds. So there's a lot of just, like, little things like, oh, this is referencing It's a Small World. Oh, this is referencing... Because there's a whole moment where they're clearly in Space Mountain.
Yes.
And it's just like a big indoor roller coaster that they go on. And Pinky and the Brain don't have seatbelts, so they almost fly off. So, like, in explaining it, it's not a great joke. But in watching it, being like, it's Space Mountain. Hooray.
Yeah, like, if you like Disney, it's a lot of jokes that you'll get done in a very, like, funny way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, episode 9, the beginning of this episode is my favorite episode.
Yeah?
Quoth Elmyra. Chocolate pie!
They do an amazing retelling of The Raven.
Yeah, it's called, like, The Raven, but, like, ranting and raving.
Yes, but it's done in perfect verse. Instead of Nevermore, it's Elmyra saying chocolate pie.
And, like, admittedly, it's very well done, and the vocabulary is very impressive.
Yes.
Like, the meter is perfect. Because sometimes with parodies, like, it's a little belabored. But the meter fits really well. There's a couple reused rhymes, but that's inevitable. I mean, Poe reuses the same rhymes multiple times. He rhymes Lenore and Nevermore and Door through the entire thing.
Yes.
So we can't really pick on Pinky and the Brain too much on that one.
Yeah, they do a great retelling of The Raven, and it is... Mwah, gets a chef kiss.
And then I'm going to skip a part and go back to it. We're going to do the second longer part of this episode first.
Laura, I believe, just skipped something I found unbelievably infuriating, so stay tuned, folks.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. And then the next one is the episode with Rudy and the snake.
Yeah, this is the one that feels the least Pinky and the Brain-esque.
This felt really throwaway.
It's basically Rudy finally catches Pinky and the Brain, puts them in his room so his snake can eat them. So it is just Pinky and the Brain attempting to survive being eaten by a snake.
Yeah.
Like, while it fits in this world that they've created, there's no trying to take over the world being done. There's no, like, Brain being smart and Pinky being doofy. It's just the two of them doing their best not to get eaten. It doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel like it needed to be Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain.
Like, when you sit down to watch, like, I don't know, the animated adventures of Superman.
Yeah.
We would assume that there is a day where Superman is not needed and Clark Kent goes to the grocery store.
Yeah.
We don't need to see that as an episode.
No, and it's, like, not interesting enough. And it's weird, because I think we also watched this the same day we watched the Bob's Burgers episode.
About snakes?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
And I kind of had the thought of, like, man, watch 2 cartoons about snakes today. One of them was pretty good.
Yeah.
The other was this Pinky and the Brain episode.
Yeah. To think that the Raven is tied to these 2 other things
almost
so
makes perfect sense to me, because I almost feel like they put the Raven with these 2 things to make the episode kind of justify its own existence. Mm-hmm. Instead of being, because I remember with, like, Tiny Toons, there were certain episodes as a kid where I'd go, oh, I didn't like this one, and I'd turn it off.
Right.
So I guess this was to save this from being the episode everyone turns off. And then this had a middle segment, which most of them don't have.
Yeah, usually the A cartoon is 1 segment.
Yeah.
And the B cartoon is 2 segments. It has, like, a cliffhanger commercial break moment.
Yeah.
This one just is 3 separate cartoons. And in the middle is a music video created by Elmyra about her mousies.
Yeah.
And the idea is that that Elmyra's the one filming it, so everything kind of, like, is out of focus, out of frame, and shaky cam.
Yeah.
But really, they're just doing that so they can just use reused footage from other Pinky and the Elmyra and the Brain cartoons.
Including stuff she wasn't there for.
Yeah, so they're just reusing this footage so that, like, they can make a cartoon. So nothing new is drawn in this episode. It's just new audio. And the song is to the tune of YMCA.
Yes.
But she sings, like, I love my mousies, I do.
Yeah.
Like, it is so removed from YMCA that I don't think legally it would qualify as a parody. Like, I think it's so separated from YMCA that they're just stealing the music and putting different words on.
Yeah, I had the thought of, by episode 8, these were chunks that were being put into Warner Rooney Big Cartoony. And do you remember, I watched this, like, 3 months ago for no apparent reason. There was a WB, like, 6-minute music video that was clearly a promo for the WB primetime.
For their primetime lineup that was sung mostly by the mom from Sister Sister, I want to say.
Yeah, it was very, like, every cast did part of it, though.
Yeah.
And it was very, very weird. But networks used to do this. A good example is Nickelodeon would have The Adventures of Inside Out Boy or Kokomo with the Muppets. And they'd have these little, like, weird shorts that would air during commercial breaks or between shows.
Yeah.
Cartoon Network, I believe, still does this.
Yeah, they weren't full shows. They were just kind of like a side bit that showed up randomly.
Yeah, like there was no catching it on purpose.
Yeah, there was no tuning in for The Adventures of Inside Out Boy. It was just a thing that would happen randomly throughout the show.
And I can't find anything proving this, but I felt like this was that.
Because this is bad. This is really bad. Because we brought this up, if you listen all the way back to like episode, I want to say 7, where we do Nightmare Ned. Mm-hmm. They do this at the end of their season, where it's a clip show with different audio pretending to be a full episode.
Yeah.
And it's not. I just find this very frustrating, very lazy, very not Pinky and the Brain. Yeah,
like it's a very, very strange bit that feels like they could have been airing it over the summer to promote Pinky and the Brain. No, Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain.
Perhaps.
But I couldn't find really any proof of that.
Yeah, the only way we'd be able to prove that is if we found, like, someone had just taped the, like, Saturday morning block and it happened to pop up.
And, like, if someone did tape a Saturday morning block of 1998 Kids WB...
we'd watch it.
I would watch that as soon as we were done recording.
Yeah.
Because you found me watching, like, supercuts of 90s commercials. Mm-hmm. Like, while I'm working, that's just what I leave on in the background. Yeah, I work really well that way. Mm-hmm. That's how I used to do my homework as a kid.
It's a very familiar work habit.
The other thing worth mentioning is in the Snake episode, there's one sequence where Brain's like, I will take over all the countries in the world. And Pinky goes, United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama. And I was like, ah! And then it stops.
And then it stops.
And I think this is the most damaging thing you can do.
Is remind us of the good times.
Is remind us of a show that was better.
Yeah.
Of like, oh yeah, I did. I really liked anime. Ew, this sucks.
I wish I was watching that.
Episode 10 is a weird episode. It's a full-length episode.
Yes, this is one story.
Yes, it is a full-length episode where they go to a circus with a freak show.
Yes, and Brain has a teleportation device he's going to use.
Yes.
In some scheme to take over the world.
And it malfunctions, and he and Elmyra get fused together. And their DNA begins to fuse.
Yes.
So there's, like, stakes here of, you know, Brain is getting dumber as the episode goes on. Elmyra is getting snarkier. Mm-hmm. And they both start to, like... They both start out having individual control of certain limbs, but then, like, they start to lose control and have to work together. Mm-hmm. And Pinky falls in love with a prize pig at the fair.
Yeah, I hate this part because it ruins the love story they were telling with Brain. Because now that Brain's gone, Pinky's just like, here's another animal for me to imprint on. I'm in love with this pig now.
Well, this is a very, very, very common trope. Of, I believe the TV tropes term is, but not too gay. But when you have two heterosexual life mate characters, if they seem too fond of each other, it's not uncommon to see a love interest get introduced for one.
Okay.
To keep it from... a notable recent example is in the Star Wars, the new trilogy. Mm-hmm. A lot of people felt like Rose was paired with Finn because Finn and Poe had too much chemistry in Force Awakens.
So they wanted to get away from a possible gay narrative?
Yeah, they didn't want it to be, here's this gay love story. So they were like throwing romantic interest at the other two. Like they have, okay, Rose is with Finn, and then when that didn't get received well, that's when they had that like other random smuggler who Poe had a history with in the third one. We don't talk about the third one. But that's a very common thing, is if in a narrative particularly two male characters seem too fond of each other, they'll be like, but they're straight, here's a girlfriend for one.
Right.
It's really, really common. So that didn't surprise me that we saw Pinky have a canonic romantic interest. Mm-hmm. It is still weird because it's a pig, but it's not like a special pig. Like, she doesn't talk.
Yeah, it's just a random pig.
Yeah. Tim Curry is the ringmaster, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Tim Curry's great in everything he does.
Yeah, and he does, like, Tim Curry... Because this is peak, like, Tim Curry voice acting career. This is, like... Wild Thornberry's era. So it's always good to see. It's always good to hear him.
I like the meta commentary of like Brain is stuck with Elmyra, and for the good of Pinky and the Brain needs to find a way to be separated from her.
That's a good. a good notice.
Yeah, I liked this episode. I thought it worked together very well as a Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain episode. Like, it would make sense for all those characters to be together in this situation.
Because Elmyra enjoys being in the freak show because people applaud for her.
Yeah, she likes attention.
So her, like, need to be liked is satisfied, but Brain is horrified because this is not what he wants for himself, to be in a serving position. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one.
11A is hope you've been watching the rest of the series. This is Elmyra takes everyone to the vet. Yeah,
this is where I have a lot to say here.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get you ready for that.
Yeah. So, because this is the episode that makes me fully turn on this show.
Okay.
So,
that's not what I was expecting.
Elmyra goes to the vet, and they kind of do this bit of like, the vet is like, oh, Elmyra's back again. What could she possibly have? Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, she's always here. And the bit kind of is, they bring out the cat that acts like a dog because the Brain hypnosed the cat, Mr.
Yes.
Pussy Wussy.
But now the cat is effectively a dog.
It's effectively a dog, and the vet's like, well, this is really interesting. Like, I could, write a paper about this and become famous.
Yeah, he wants to exploit Mr. Pussy Wussy.
Ignoring the fact that there are 2 talking mice involved. And that's kind of the whole bit.
And it's also like, I've known cats that are more dog-like than cat-like.
Oh yeah, I've seen cat dogs, but
yeah.
This one barks and stuff. There is just one moment in this that, to me, shows everything wrong with this show.
Okay.
The doctor's like, do you have any other strange animals? And she goes, I just have this bunny I got from the bunny tree. Oh,
and it's Shad from the 3rd episode.
Yeah, it's the alien
that
Elmyra believed was a bunny, and so has since kidnapped and has kept in prison up until now, thinking it was a bunny.
But we've never seen him.
Well, I mean, we saw him in that episode.
Yeah, but
we didn't see him any other time.
Despite the fact that, clearly canon exists, he hasn't appeared in the interim.
Exactly. This episode establishes 100% that there is a canon to this show. That events that happened earlier count in the next episode. In what I said in the previous episode of this show, of Stay Doomed, the whole point of the theme song is so that the show can exist in media res. You can watch the show in any order, and in reruns and stuff like that, and you're not missing anything. If this is the first episode of this show you see, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Which means there's no reason why the show couldn't have an actual pilot that explained all the things.
You're 100% right.
So I'm unbelievably frustrated that, they're going to continue having a canon, but they're not going to have a pilot that answers all the questions of why we got here, which also means that it is canon that Pinky and the Brain are aware of the circle that is chasing them, but they're not going to hide from them. This one episode, the one joke of having the alien pop out of the bag destroys the framework of the show.
And, what I find very strange is both iterations of Animaniacs have a dedicated pilot. That's the thing I find crazy is, there's clearly precedent to having a pilot like this. Both versions of Animaniacs, 93 and 2020, had one. So I don't really get why this couldn't have one.
I don't know. It's just, that one joke shows everything that's wrong with this, is that they don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of doing stuff.
This is also paired with That's Edutainment, which is Brain trying to get a public access TV show off the ground, because he's going to take over the world by corrupting the youth.
Yes, I personally believe that they had at some point been given a note to be like, hey, can you make your show educational? And they were like, no. Pinky and the Brain's not going to be educational. That's stupid. We're a comedy show. Don't ask us to do this again. And then as rebellion, they were like, let's do a Pinky and the Brain educational show.
Yeah, and like the show is bad, but gets a following because it's bad.
Yes.
And then they're canceled because everyone knows nobody watches educational shows.
Yes. Like, this is very much, in my opinion, an FU to the network who asked Pinky and the Brain to be educational. Because Pinky and the Brain does have the original OG Pinky and the Brain have an educational cartoon where they sing the parts of the brain.
Yes.
And just Pinky keeps yelling brainstem.
Pons and cortex visual. Brainstem! Sylvian Fisher pineal, left hemisphere.
Well, the next episode is so confusing because what ends up happening with their education TV show is it gets popular because of Elmyra.
Yeah.
The next episode is about Elmyra doing a show.
Right.
But it's not actually a show on television. It's a pretend show that she's doing in her room. And,
that's right.
And Brain is trying to do something and needs Pinky, but Pinky needs to be a guest on Elmyra's show.
No, Pinky needs to distract Elmyra. And then they have a falling out because Elmyra introduces a clip from Pinky's movie, but introduces it wrong and like gets the plot of the movie wrong. And then Pinky and Elmyra have a fight. And Brain is annoyed because he needs Pinky to go entertain Elmyra and distract her.
Yeah, everything about this is confusing because it starts off with it being like, this is the Elmyra show. And any person watching this would be like, oh, this is a continuation of what we just saw, that now Elmyra has her own show because of all the success in education. Because we established that there's a canon now.
Yes.
And things that happen in previous episodes matter in the future. No, she's just playing make-believe. None of this makes sense anymore.
If you think that doesn't make sense, the next episode is they're having the meat festival in town. Because all of these shows always have like a weird town festival.
Yes.
This like reminds me of Doug, because Doug always has like, we're a town that for some reason is all about beets.
Yes, so to start off, we get the Patty Ann theme song. Because
Yes.
Brain is walking around as Patty Ann. And Pinky sings a song to the tune of, I believe, Staying Alive.
His head is really tiny, he's got a mental honey, he's Patty Ann, Patty Ann. Even Scary Rudy thinks that he's a cutie, Patty Ann, Patty Ann.
Stop that.
Patty Ann, Patty Ann.
Pinky?
Patty Ann.
And, like, Brain is punching Pinky in the chest with his robot hands. It's a nice, like, little fun theme song. But the plot is that there's a meat day festival, and one little girl is going to be the face of the meat.
The meat queen.
The meat queen. And they have to do a talent show. And it is Patty Ann, Vanity, and Elmyra.
Yes.
And Vanity really wants it.
Because it's any kind of queenship.
Elmyra's being Elmyra.
Yes.
But Patty Ann, Pinky and the Brain,
Uses hypnosis.
uses
earrings.
hypnosis because it's always hypnosis.
Yeah.
To win the chance to be Meat Queen, which means she's going to lead the meat parade.
Yes.
Patty Ann, she's marching in her own parade.
Pepper Ann, marching in her own parade. Pepper Ann, she's like one in a million. Pepper Ann, much too cool for 7th grade. No, it's cooler than...
Do not besmirch the good name of Pepper Ann with this show.
That's what's happening. You can't deny that.
Pepper Ann is too cool for 7th grade.
I know, she's one in a million. She has her own theme song.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Pepper Ann ran too many seasons for us to be able to do that. But Pepper Ann holds up.
There's at least one listener that's like, who the hell is Pepper Ann? Why do they keep talking about her? She's too cool for 7th grade. In any case, since it's always hypnosis, Brain is going to, I believe, use more hypnosis in the parade.
Because the parade will be televised, which is
Yes.
why he wants to be the meat queen. Because the parade will be televised and he's going to use the mass hypnosis earrings. However, Pinky gets caught. And they always have to lie and they never say they're mice. Mm-hmm. So Pinky's a float designer.
Yes.
And Pinky designs a float made entirely out of meat.
Yeah, actual meat.
Which they say as a joke while the hypnosis earrings are on. And then the head of the meat committee is all in on the meat float.
Yeah, it's got to be a meat float.
Because he's hypnotized. So Pinky is going to design the meat float. Now Vanity is enraged. Mm-hmm. And Vanity and Elmyra team up. And Vanity, corrupts Elmyra a little bit.
Yeah, she's using Elmyra to kind of get revenge on Patty Ann. And also kind of pin the rap on Elmyra for doing this.
Well, it's also enemy mine. Because we also have Rudy as a crush on Patty Ann. Mm-hmm. So Vanity exploits Elmyra's crush on Rudy by getting revenge on Patty Ann because Patty Ann has something each of them wants. Rudy's attention, the meat queenship.
Yes.
So they sick all of the local dogs in the pound on the meat float, which they also establish it's a hot day in the summer.
Yes.
And Brain is riding around on a thing made of rotting meat. Mm-hmm. And he drops the hypnosis earrings, and at one point has just 2 sausages.
Yeah, which is a fun visual gag.
Yeah.
And his plan is ruined through the sabotage of the puppet master, Vanity.
Yes.
There's one thing about this episode I really need to bring up. Elmyra gets upset because Patty Ann loves, or Rudy loves Patty Ann. And in this episode, calls Patty Ann a desperate pussy.
Yeah.
And then I believe Brain actually corrects Elmyra and says, I think you're trying to say hussy. And also, I don't care about Rudy. 2 important things.
Yes.
1, she says the word hussy in the first episode. So she knows the word hussy. True. You established that there is canon in this show. And now you're corrupting it. 2, because we watched Letterkenny on Hulu, we had subtitles on.
Yes.
So when Elmyra calls Patty Ann a pussy, it says pussy.
Yeah. But they also say pussy on the show before. Because they say Mr. Pussy Wussy.
I think it's different calling a cat a pussy than calling a woman a pussy.
That's true.
And granted, she says pussy, but it's spelled the same.
Yeah, you're right.
So, when I was watching it, when I saw the word pop up, I was taken aback. And I don't think you noticed that it said pussy on screen for a moment.
No, because I was probably either taking a note or I was like, I want to look something up.
So I just thought that was very interesting that the deaf community had a completely different experience with this episode.
That's true. We're finally in the last episode. Thank God. The first one is Vanity is having a party. And Vanity wants Elmyra to come because she shines next to Elmyra and wants Andrew Loam's attention. But Elmyra comes with a rider. Elmyra needs Rudy to go, or else she doesn't want to go to the party. Mm-hmm. Which I think says a lot about Elmyra socially.
Yeah.
She doesn't care that she's getting invited to this big, what's established as the biggest party of the school year.
Yeah, I kind of took this, I might have misunderstood, but Vanity invites Elmyra and says Rudy's going to be there. And then Vanity invites Rudy and says Elmyra can't wait to go with you. Knowing that Rudy would then tell Elmyra that he's not going, so she wouldn't go. And Vanity can be like, Freak didn't show up to my party and I invited her.
No, she wants Elmyra there, though.
Is that, because that's the way I took it. I thought it was all chess moves.
It is all chess moves. She promises that she'll invite Rudy, but she, like, verbally invites Rudy in a way that makes it clear he's not welcome. Mm-hmm. So if Elmyra asks Vanity, Vanity goes, yeah, I invited Rudy.
Okay.
So that's kind of what it is. She wants Elmyra there, because it would have been just as easy to not invite Elmyra at all. Mm-hmm. But then Patty Ann shows up.
Right.
And then that starts that, like, everyone hates Patty Ann, except for Rudy, who's in love with her.
Right.
And it starts a food fight, and Vanity's upset because, like, her big party is ruined. Because Brain and Pinky want Elmyra to go because they want her to have friends.
Yeah, so that they can be left alone to take over the world.
Yeah, so they're like... And I want to come back to this idea of them trying to help Elmyra to serve a purpose. And how it doesn't work because it's Elmyra. But they want her to go because if she has friends all summer, she'll be out of their hair. This is really an interesting idea of... They could have kind of had a more symbiotic relationship with the little girl they lived with if they were helping her. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of issues with this show could have been solved had it just not been Elmyra.
Yep.
Like, having them live with a person. You could still do a lot of the things they wanted to do with this, but you couldn't make it Elmyra. You had to make it like, you know, you didn't need to make it like a super sympathetic Dickensian orphan child. But you have to make it somebody we can root for.
Right.
So that we kind of like... And someone Pinky the Brain could kind of warm up to. Because they don't really warm up to Elmyra over the course of the show. And then the final episode is bizarre. Brain decides he is going to win influence and win hearts by being Braino, who's a Zorro parody.
Yeah.
He is subverted at every turn by Elmyra, who is Underwearhead, who was just wearing a pair of frilly pink panties on her head that blind her, because she's not wearing them so that the eye holes are where the legs holes are.
Right.
So she's just kind of accidentally stumbling around into do-gooding. Mm-hmm. And Braino, in an attempt to engineer situations that he can save the day, causes a lot of problems that Underwearhead solves.
Yes.
And then Elmyra gets notoriety and fame as Underwearhead. Mm-hmm. What?
And, like, to go back to this, like, the whole, like, seafood thing that I said in our previous episode, all Elmyra does and gets, like, praise for is put underwear on her head and run around blindly screaming, I'm Underwearhead.
Yes.
It's another imitable act that, like, if my 3-year-old were to watch, might end up doing, and I would hate.
Yeah.
So, like, it's another one of those things where it's like, this isn't a good idea to put on television, guys.
Yeah, you're right about imitable acts.
Yes.
This
exists so Pinky can be a horse and sing a theme song.
Yes, because Pinky is the noble steed.
Yeah.
That's the show.
Which is crazy. I feel like somehow in all of this, we missed the Circle reappearance.
Yeah, I don't remember when they came back.
But this really shows... I think this is a great place to start our, like, final verdict discussion.
Yeah.
The idea of the Circle is so interesting, and it is such a focal point of the theme song that appears in 3 episodes max.
Yeah.
And I know one for sure is a dream sequence.
Yeah. It's...
And again, I know I keep dwelling on it as a joke, but you establish that there is canon. Way too much of the Brain's plans require getting famous.
Yeah.
So if they are hiding from this circle of people, why are you constantly trying to get on television?
And it's terrible because we're currently watching the 2020 Animaniacs, like, for fun on our own time. And they're really... It's much more successful at an attempt to reboot Pinky and the Brain.
Mm-hmm. I want to note that in the very first Pinky and the Brain cartoon on the new Animaniacs, it starts with them discussing the idea of the internet, basically. And the brain basically ends up creating social media.
Yes.
Like, he invents it. And that's what he's been doing since the Animaniacs or since their show ended and now. Basically saying, like, Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain never happened.
Yeah, Pinky the creator confirmed that Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain is not considered canon.
Yeah.
One of the working titles of the show was Pinky and the Brain, The Elmyra Years.
Yes, I saw that.
Which, if they hadn't had the beginning thing, you could have easily made this a prequel. Because instead, you've pulled Pinky and the Brain out of Acme Labs, but you also had to pull Elmyra out of Acme University.
Elmyra doesn't go to Acme University. She goes to a school with humans. Because this is also something that I wanted to bring up.
In Tiny Toons?
In Tiny Toons, she doesn't go to Acme University.
Okay.
I actually did check that. Because that's something I want to bring up later. But something I think we need to bring up now that we never brought up is the name of Elmyra's school.
Oh, yeah.
Is that she attends Chuck Norris Elementary?
Which is fun, because this was also pre-Chuck Norris memes.
Yeah! Pinky and the Brain and Elmyra. Ahead of the curve.
Which is fun. It's weird because Elmyra has a family in Tiny Toons. We see her family. Thanksgiving was this week, and I spent the entire time when I was, like, cleaning the house and cooking with Tiny Toons on the background on Hulu, because it was something I could just, like, have as white noise. And you see, like, her father and her sister. So, like, she has a family that we never see in Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain. And that's kind of weird. And, like, they have a maid.
Yeah?
So, like, Pinky, Elmyra, like, Elmyra clearly, like, comes from a certain level of money. And it's established in Tiny Toons, Elmyra's parents are friendly with Montana Max's parents. So, like, what we do know about her family is that she's fairly affluent. She has a family that are somewhat involved with each other.
Because I will say this. Let's say you have to add something to Pinky and the Brain. I think it's very clear that we think that nothing should be added. And I will mention, we watched Pinky and the Brain and Larry.
Yes.
Which is another FU episode to the network that they did.
But really well done.
Well done, where just out of nowhere, there's a third mouse named Larry.
And they changed the theme song.
And they changed the theme
Pinky
song.
and the Brain and Larry. And Pinky and the Brain and Larry.
And they just start doing Stooge gags. Which is
because Larry
amazing.
is clearly Larry from the Three Stooges.
Yeah, there's a great moment in that episode.
There's a good sight gag.
Where they're wallpapering.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to get into the White House by being wallpapers and paperers. And there's wallpaper goes over Brain's head. And when he rips out of it, the wallpaper stuck to his head makes Moe's haircut.
Yes.
So good. So good. It's amazing how much better original Pinky and the Brain is.
Yeah, because this was an episode that was written as a middle finger to the executives and still really fun.
So let's say you have to add something, a property, to Pinky and the Brain. And I've thought about this a lot. I don't think I can find something better than Elmyra, that it already exists in the Warner Cartooniverse to make this work. Because like all the other Tiny Toons kind of need to exist in a different reality.
Right.
Because it's important that Pinky and the Brain are the only talking animals. So you can't have them team up with like Buster Bunny. So like maybe Freakazoid? Maybe? But I think the main thing that could fix all this, just one tiny thing.
Okay.
You said that we know a little bit about Elmyra's family, but we don't know a lot.
Yeah.
And not enough that it's established that if it had changed, people would be upset. Elmyra's father should be a scientist.
He's an inventor.
Oh my God!
He is legitimately, canonically an inventor.
All you had to do was make
him work at Acme Labs.
It doesn't even have to be Acme Labs. It's just the only lab that they can get to. the only place where they can survive is a lab that has Elmyra in it. That would explain why they never leave.
Yeah, because it's the only thing that has the resources they need.
Like that.
Oh, I just ruined your whole life by saying he was an inventor.
Oh my god, it was right. It was staring them right in the face, and they just didn't do it. Is so frustrating to me. Yeah,
like in the episode, because they did a few episodes of Tiny Toons that focused on Elmyra's family, because they kind of wanted, somebody somewhere wanted to spin Elmyra off real bad. And there was actually a thing where MacArthur Duff makes a clean-burning fuel from cholesterol.
What?
Yeah. Still, like...
Oh my god, like...
And fossil fuel, like, tries to kidnap Elmyra as revenge.
Oh, it's so obvious. Just do it. Oh my god, that's so infuriating to hear. That is so infuriating to hear. Because I was just like... I wanted to stand up and be like, I'm brilliant. I solved it. Just make Elmyra's dad an inventor. And it was there already.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense for him to exist in this world. It also, like, gives more good excuse plots of, like, she's a child. Again, they always have this trouble with 8 to 9-year-old characters of writers always put them in situations that you'd be in minimum in middle school. Mm-hmm. She has an existing teenage sister that you could have used to exploit all of these, like, teenager subplots.
Yeah. I'm so frustrated. So
like, Brain's trying to get her sister into a good college so he can escape.
Yeah. Something like that.
Like, and she has, like, 3 siblings in Animaniacs. So, like...
I'm so grumpy.
You could have kept... Because I kept saying, like, another little girl, that it didn't have to be an existing IP.
Yeah.
But, like, if you'd focused a little bit more on, like, making it a family sitcom, which is what I kind of thought they wanted to do by having it be Elmyra.
Yeah, it might have been better to just stick them with Katie Kaboom.
Yeah. Or you, like, do an aged-up version of Buttons and Mindy.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Like, Mindy's now, 9 or 10 and in school. Mindy is hapless. Maybe Pinky and the Brain grow fond of Mindy, and there's going to be a point where they choose between success and helping Mindy. Mm-hmm. Because she is always so good at getting into, like, bad situations. Buttons is suspicious. Built-in antagonist.
Yeah.
Absent parents. Mindy has, canonically, terrible parents.
This is true. Wow, that would have worked really well, actually.
Yeah, I started saying this as a joke, but, like, honestly, this works.
We gotta give this a verdict. What do you say?
I'm gonna call this a stay doomed owing to the game over rule.
Because you could easily fix this?
With the idea of expanding it to include her family, there are episodes of the show that land.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, with sufficient changes, this show could have kind of worked. And if they hadn't clearly held a gun to the creators' heads making the show.
Yeah, I think we've come up with a lot of ideas to make Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain better.
Yeah.
None of them make them better than Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, no.
I'm going to give this a stay doomed as well. I feel like this is going to sound strange. The best comparison I have to Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain is another show we covered here on Stay Doomed, and that's the television wheel.
Okay.
This is a concept that is really hard to pull off, and they did their best with it that they could.
Yeah.
And there are some, like, good moments to it. But it's a very difficult thing that you shouldn't bother attempting when you could just do something better and easier over here.
Yeah, like, this started the same season as, like, Hysteria, which was a better show.
Yeah.
Because I really liked Hysteria. I was really bummed to find out it ran 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But, like, they would have been better off just kind of making more making a new Warner Brothers cartoon property that they could have then just exploited for a couple years.
I also want to say, Pinky and the Brain was my favorite show as a kid growing up. It was my favorite cartoon.
Yeah.
Did you know that they had an ending?
I did not.
There is a 3-part movie of sorts called Brainwashed, where Brains loses his memory, and it is a 3-episode arc about a dance called the Smearskahooven, created by Bab, which is an ABBA parody.
Okay.
And
because they're Swedish. Okay.
Yeah, and the idea is it's kind of a Macarena parody.
That makes sense.
But Brain figures out that the dance moves of the Smearskahooven keep hitting these pressure points that will erase your brain.
Okay.
And Brain kind of comes up with the idea of I'm going to put a message out at this particular moment because there's going to be this big dance concert with Bab. And I will just say that Brain's the leader of the world. And then they come to find out that's someone else's plan. Somebody else that they had stumbled on someone else's plan.
Oh, that's wild.
So they assume it's Snowball, who is a genetically spliced hamster, who is also an antagonist in Pinky and the Brain that's trying to take over the world.
Okay.
Only to find out it is not Snowball, and they now have to team up with him to take on this cat.
Oh my god.
And the cat's the real mastermind, and the cat's going to turn all the humans into cats, is the plan.
As one does.
And what ends up happening at the end is the cat wants to use this line that'll turn everyone into cats. The Brain wants to use this line that will make everybody worship the Brain. And Pinky ends up being the one who has to put the line in. And he says something like, just do your own thing. Don't follow the dance moves. And it wakes everybody up.
Aww.
But in the process of this 3-episode mini movie, they end up displacing Snowball, and he just becomes a hamster. And I believe Brain's tuxedo rowboat suit gets destroyed. All the staples of the show start to go away.
Aww.
And as I'm watching this, I remember thinking is this the end of the show? And after Brainwash, there's 3 other episodes, but they're all non-canon specials, the team up with the Animaniacs to do Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of the last Pinky and the Brain story. So the idea that they kind of wrapped it up nicely and then did Pinky, Elmyra, and the Brain is so hurtful.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that makes me so sad.
Yeah, like I said, I have a real soft spot for Pinky and the Brain. I think it's great. I think it's really great. And if you're on Hulu and you finished the new Animaniacs, watch OG Pinky and the Brain, because it's great. And in the end, there are some fun moments of Pinky and Elmyra and the Brain, but it's so many tiers down from Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain that it just doesn't justify its own existence.
Oh, that's such a bummer.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that's why this was 2 parts.
I really want to watch Star Warners now.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to watch Star Warners at some point.
Because I literally was just what do you mean? Because I'm now looking at it, and what's interesting about what you said, because I just looked, and are you talking about Brainwashed?
Yeah, Brainwashed.
So those were the first 3 episodes of season 4. There was another episode of Pinky and the Brain, a reunion special, another weird one, and then Star Warners is technically the last episode of Pinky and the Brain.
Yes.
That's wild.
It's Pinky and the Brain's great. Maybe we'll watch them later.
Yeah, they're on Hulu.
So what are we watching next week as we begin the trek to episode 100?
I believe we can actually just lay out everything between now and 100.
Everything between now and 100 are bigger watches. except for what we're doing next week.
Yeah.
So we want to kind of give everyone time to watch stuff. So as we make our march towards 100, there's one thing that we do want to kind of correct. We've done game shows, reality shows, cartoons, dramas, sitcoms, comedies, pilots. There's one genre we keep kind of missing. So next week we are going to do our first one-season anime.
And there are some incredible one-season animes. There's Death Note, there's Cowboy Bebop, there's Trigun, there's Kill la Kill, and we're gonna do none of those.
None of those.
We are gonna do Elf Princess Reign from 1995.
Yes.
So
Two episodes and it's all on YouTube.
I'm really excited to do this because the mid-90s was such a crazy time in anime being served to an American audience. I'm really excited to see something in the similar time period to like Sailor Moon, which I grew up watching.
Right.
That's not necessarily as popular.
Yeah, as well revered.
So I'm excited for that.
And then after that, we're doing two shows that I was directly involved in.
Yes.
So we're kind of doing, I'll have extra insight. The first is our first web series we'll be doing.
Yes.
We will be doing Dungeon Crawlers, which was created by my pal Uncle Yo, and I appear as an actor.
Yes, and do you want to say who you play?
No.
Okay.
We'll save that. We'll
All
save
right.
that. So be sure to check out Dungeon Crawlers. It's all available on YouTube. Then, for episode number 99, this one you have to go to Independent Wrestling TV to find. And if you don't have a subscription to that, use the code word LEAPFROG, and you can actually get a free month of this. I was an editor and also on-screen talent for a show called Chikara Action Arcade. And that also only ran one season. So you can check that out on Independent Wrestling TV. And then finally, episode 100. This is the show that kind of started this show.
This is the show that finding a way to bully Noah into watching this show inspired this podcast.
Yes, it is a show that I have never watched despite being a fan of pretty much all the people involved.
We're finally going to do Firefly.
We're doing Firefly, people.
And I'm going to keep a list of every time you suddenly retroactively understand a nerd reference.
Yes, so get excited for that. So here's your homework for dear Stay Doomed viewer or listener. Next week, we will be doing Elf Princess Reign.
Yep.
Followed by Dungeon Crawlers. Followed by Chikara Action Arcade. Followed by Firefly. There will probably be some two-parters in there.
Almost certainly.
Yes.
I think, if nothing else, Firefly itself will be a two-parter.
Absolutely.
And episode 101 is probably going to be our second retrospective episode.
Yes, our postmortem.
Because we're going to kind of consider it the end of season 2.
Yes.
It's weird because we take our hiatus in September because that's when our year ends. Mm-hmm. But our seasons kind of end every 50 episodes.
Yes, and everything, ever since we started doing bonus episodes and
two-parters.
100 episodes, what is considered an episode got mixed up in the numbers. But yeah, now you know. So please get excited for that. You can also support us on Patreon. We'll be dropping our first bonus episode on the Nightmind Candy Bowl very, very soon. And
would we like to do Star Warners as our next bonus episode?
I know we discussed doing just Animaniacs, the new season, as our new next bonus episode, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, because technically it has a 2-season contract, so it doesn't count.
It doesn't count as
All
an
right.
episode. Where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at StayDoomed.
And if you want to talk to me about your fondest memory of Pinky and the Brain, I'm at +2 Comedy.
If you ever taped the entire Kids WB Saturday morning block for any reason pre-2000, I'm at Stay Doomed. Seriously, DM me. Until next time, stay doomed.